The Vethra's military academy floated in the empty space between two dying stars. It was old, 400 years old, to be exact. Every important military officer in the Galactic Coalition had trained within its metal walls. Species from 100 different worlds sent their best young people here. They came to learn. They came to fight. They came to become legends. Elena Vasquez was not expecting to become a legend. She was just trying to survive her first week. She stood in the transport bay with 11 other humans. They were the first large group of humans ever admitted to the Academy. Humanity had only made contact with the galactic community 15 years ago. In the eyes of most alien species, humans were babies, newcomers, a provisional species that had not yet proven its worth. Elena was 17 years old. She had brown skin, dark hair cut short for practicality, and eyes that watched everything. She did not speak much. She had learned early that listening was more useful than talking. The transport doors opened. A wave of strange smells hit her nose. The air inside the academy was filtered to accommodate dozens of different species, but it still carried hints of alien biology. Some sweet, some sharp, some that made her want to cover her face. A massive figure stepped into the doorway. Elena had to tilt her head back to see his face. He was Kraishi. His species stood over 8 feet tall. He had 4 arms, each one thick with muscle. His skin was covered in scales the color of old copper. His eyes were yellow with vertical pupils, like a snake. "I am Instructor Velthak," he said. His voice was deep and rough. "You will address me as Instructor or Sir, nothing else. You are now Cohort Sigma 7. For the next 2 years, you will train together, eat together, and bleed together. Some of you will not finish. Some of you will wash out. Some of you will break." His yellow eyes moved across the group. They stopped on the humans. "The Coalition has granted humanity provisional status. This means you are here on trial. Your performance will determine whether more of your kind are admitted in the future. Do not disappoint your species." Elena felt the weight of those words. 12 humans. The future of humanity in the Academy depended on 12 young people who had never even left their solar system until 6 months ago. No pressure at all. The cohort was led to their barracks. It was a long room with sleeping pods built into the walls. Each pod was designed to adjust to different species' needs: gravity, temperature, atmosphere. Elena found hers and touched the control panel. It scanned her biology and hummed softly as it calibrated. She was examining her pod when a shadow fell over her. She turned and looked up. And up. And up. The alien standing behind her was almost as tall as Instructor Velthak, but built differently. Where the instructor was broad and heavy, this one was lean and sharp. His body was covered in short silver fur. His face was somewhere between a wolf and a lion, with a long snout full of teeth. His eyes were pale blue and very cold. "You are the human," he said. It was not a question. "One of them," Elena replied. "I am Torvax Kren, of House Kren, of the Valanthi Dominion." Elena had read about the Valanthi during her preparation courses. They came from a high-gravity world. They were apex predators. Their entire culture was built around strength, honor, and dominance. They had been part of the Coalition for over 1,000 years and held many high military positions. "Elena Vasquez," she said. "Of Earth." Torvax's lip curled back, showing more teeth. "Earth. The little wet rock on the edge of nowhere. I had hoped the rumors were wrong. I had hoped the Coalition had not actually put a Valanthi warrior in the same cohort as prey animals." Elena's jaw tightened, but she kept her voice calm. "I am not prey." "No." Torvax leaned down. His breath was hot and smelled of meat. "You are small. You are soft. You have no claws, no fangs, no armor. On my world, creatures like you are food. The Coalition has made a mistake putting you here. You do not belong." He straightened up and walked away before she could respond. Elena stood very still for a long moment. Her heart was beating fast, but she did not let it show on her face. She had dealt with bullies before. Human bullies. They were all the same, no matter how many teeth they had. She would not let him see her afraid. The first weeks of training were brutal. The Academy did not ease new cadets into the program. It threw them into the deep water and watched to see who could swim. Physical training, combat drills, strategy simulations, survival courses. Every day pushed Elena to her limits, and every day Torvax found ways to make it worse. A shoulder check in the corridor that sent her stumbling into the wall. Sorry. Did not see you there. You are so small. An accidental strike during combat practice that left her with bruises for days. You should have blocked faster. Humans are supposed to have good reflexes, no? Perhaps I was misinformed. Comments during meals, loud enough for everyone to hear. Look at what the human eats. Dead plants and dead animals, all mixed together. How do they survive on such disgusting fuel? Elena reported nothing. She complained about nothing. She simply endured. Some of her fellow cadets noticed. A small alien named Rix, a Calorian with 6 limbs and large dark eyes, approached her one evening. You should be careful with Torvax, Rix said. Their voice was soft and clicking. Valanthi do not forget insults. They do not forgive weakness. And they do not stop until they have won. I have not insulted him, Elena said. You exist, Rix replied. To him, that is insult enough. The breaking point came during a strategy simulation. The cohort was divided into 2 teams. Elena led one, Torvax led the other. The simulation was a capture the flag scenario in a virtual jungle environment. Torvax had the stronger team on paper. More heavy fighters, more speed, more raw power. Elena had studied his tactics for weeks. She knew he was aggressive. She knew he was impatient. She knew he expected to win through overwhelming force. So she did not fight force with force. She used traps, distractions, misdirection. She let his team chase shadows while her squad slipped through the gaps. Her team won. When the simulation ended, Torvax was shaking with rage. He stormed across the debriefing room and stopped inches from Elena's face. You cheated, he snarled. Like all prey species, you are too weak to fight with honor, so you use tricks and lies. Instructor Velthak's voice cut through the tension. Cadet Kren, step back. The simulation was conducted within all rules. Cadet Vasquez won through superior strategy. Torvax did not move for a long moment. His pale eyes burned into Elena's. This is not over, he whispered. Then he turned and walked away. Elena watched him go. She knew he was right. This was only the beginning. Torvax did not sleep well after the simulation defeat. In Valanthi culture, losing to a weaker opponent was worse than losing to a stronger one. It brought shame not just to the individual, but to their entire bloodline. House Kren had produced warriors for 30 generations, champions, legends, and now Torvax, heir to that legacy, had been beaten by a small human girl using tricks instead of strength. His father would be disgusted. His ancestors would be ashamed. He lay in his sleeping pod and stared at the ceiling. The shame burned in his chest like acid. It whispered to him in the dark. She must pay. She must be broken. She must be made to leave. In the days that followed, Torvax began to gather allies. Not officially, of course. The Academy had rules against forming factions. But there were always cadets who shared certain views. Cadets who believed that some species were simply better than others. A Vornak cadet named Dreth, whose people had conquered 6 worlds before joining the coalition. A pair of Thessian twins who looked down on any species that had not achieved faster than light travel on their own. A hulking Grimac who simply enjoyed violence. They did not form a gang. They just happened to be in the same places at the same times. They just happened to make life difficult for certain cadets, especially the humans. Elena noticed. She was good at noticing things. They are hunting you, Rix told her one night. The little Calorian had become her closest friend in the cohort. Rix was not a fighter. Calorians were engineers and builders, but Rix was smart. And Rix paid attention. I know, Elena said. What will you do? What I always do, survive. The physical training sessions became more dangerous. Instructor Velthak ran them hard, but he could not watch everything. During sparring matches, Torvax's allies would target Elena with extra force. During obstacle courses, equipment would mysteriously malfunction when she was using it. Elena collected bruises like souvenirs. A black eye, a twisted ankle, 3 cracked ribs that the medical bay healed overnight but still ached for days. She never complained. She never named names. The other cadets began to notice something strange about the human girl. During endurance training, when the cohort was forced to run laps until they dropped, Elena kept going long after larger, stronger species had collapsed. Her form was terrible. Her face was twisted with pain. But she did not stop. How is she still moving? A Krashi cadet asked Instructor Velthak. The instructor did not answer. But later that night, he pulled up Elena's species file and began to read. The file was thin. Humanity was new to the galactic community. There had not been much time for proper study. But there were some notes from coalition observers who had visited Earth. Persistence, predators. He read aloud. Early humans hunted prey by chasing it for hours or days, until the prey collapsed from exhaustion. Humans have extremely efficient cooling systems through perspiration. They can maintain moderate activity levels for extraordinary periods. He kept reading. High pain tolerance. Rapid healing compared to most carbon-based species. Psychological resilience under stress. History of surviving extreme conditions including ice ages, plagues, and prolonged conflicts. Velthak leaned back in his chair. He looked at the small holographic image of a human in the corner of the file. Such a fragile-looking species. No claws, no scales, no venom. Nothing that would suggest they were dangerous. And yet, he thought about Elena in the training yard. The way she got up every time she was knocked down. The way she adapted to every obstacle. The way she refused to break, no matter how hard Torvax and his allies pushed. Perhaps there was more to humans than met the eye. The confrontation came on a rest day. Elena was alone in the equipment bay, checking her training gear for damage. The door opened behind her. She did not need to turn around. She could smell him. Valanthe had a distinctive scent, sharp and musky, like a predator marking territory. Human. She turned. Torvax stood in the doorway. His allies were not with him. This was personal. Torvax. He walked toward her slowly. A predator stalking prey. You think you are clever. You think your little tricks make you special. But you are nothing. You are a mistake that the coalition made, and I am going to correct it. Elena stood her ground. Her heart was pounding, but she kept her voice steady. What do you want? I want you gone. Leave the academy. Return to your wet little rock. Tell them that humans do not belong among real warriors. No. The word hung in the air. Simple. Final. Torvax's eyes widened. He was not used to being refused. You dare. I worked my whole life to be here, Elena said. I trained for years. I competed against thousands of other humans for one of 12 spots. I left my family, my planet, everything I knew. And you think I'm going to quit because one overgrown dog with too many teeth told me to? For a moment, Torvax was silent. Then his lips pulled back in a snarl. If you will not leave willingly, then I will make you unfit for service. I will break your bones. I will tear your soft skin. I will show everyone what happens to prey that forgets its place. Threats, Elena said. That is all you have. Threats and insults. Because you know that if we fought fair, with rules and witnesses, you might lose again. She had pushed the right button. Torvax's fur stood up along his spine. His claws extended. You want fair? He growled. Fine. I challenge you to an honor duel. Tomorrow. In the training arena. In front of everyone. No tricks. No strategies. Just you and me. Until one of us cannot continue. Elena knew she should refuse. She was smaller, weaker, and less experienced in direct combat. A Valanthe honor duel was designed for Valanthe bodies. She would be fighting on his terms. But she also knew that refusing would prove everything he said about humans. It would confirm that they were prey, that they were weak, that they did not belong. She thought about the 11 other humans in the academy. She thought about all the humans who might come after her. She thought about her grandmother back on Earth, who had raised her after her parents died, who had taught her that courage was not the absence of fear but the decision that something else was more important. I accept, she said. Torvax blinked. He had expected her to refuse. He had expected her to beg. Before he could respond, the equipment bay door opened. Instructor Velthak stood in the entrance. His yellow eyes moved from Torvax to Elena and back. What is happening here? An honor duel has been issued and accepted, Torvax said quickly. By tradition, it cannot be refused or cancelled. Velthak looked at Elena. Cadet Vasquez, you understand what you have agreed to? Yes, sir. You understand that I cannot stop this duel once it has begun, except to prevent death? Yes, sir. The instructor was silent for a long moment. Then he nodded slowly. The duel will take place tomorrow at sunset. I will officiate personally. May the ancestors of both your species watch with pride." He turned and walked away. Torvax smiled, showing all his teeth. "Tomorrow, human. Tomorrow the galaxy will see what you really are." Elena watched him leave. Then she sat down on a equipment crate and let herself shake. Just for a moment, just long enough to let the fear out. Then she stood up and began to prepare. Word spread through the academy like fire through dry grass. By morning, everyone knew. A Valanthi warrior had challenged a human to an honor duel. The betting pools formed almost immediately. The odds were not kind to Elena. 50-1 against her winning. Some cadets did not even offer winning odds. They only offered bets on how long she would last. 1 minute, 2 minutes, 5, if she was lucky. Elena spent the day in quiet preparation. She reviewed everything she knew about Valanthi combat styles. She stretched her muscles. She ate a small meal and drank plenty of water. She meditated, trying to find the calm center inside herself. Rix found her in the afternoon. "You do not have to do this," the little Calorian said. "There is no shame in refusing a fight. You cannot win. I already accepted. Traditions can be broken. You could claim illness. You could..." "Rix." Elena put a hand on her friend's thin shoulder. "If I run away now, every human who comes after me will pay the price. Every alien who thinks we are weak will feel justified. I have to do this. Not just for me." Rix's large, dark eyes glistened. "You might die. I might. But I would rather die standing than live on my knees." The training arena was packed when sunset came. Cadets filled every seat. Instructors stood along the walls. Even the academy commandant had come to watch. A ancient Thessian with silver scales and eyes that had seen 1,000 battles. Elena walked into the arena wearing her standard training uniform. No armor, no weapons, just cloth and skin. Torvax entered from the other side. He had removed his uniform top, displaying the powerful muscles beneath his silver fur. His claws were fully extended. His teeth gleamed in the artificial light. "She is so small," someone whispered in the crowd. "This will not last long." Another voice agreed. Instructor Velthak stood in the center of the arena. His 4 arms were folded across his chest. His face showed no emotion. "This is an honor duel between Cadet Torvax Kren of the Valanthi Dominion and Cadet Elena Vasquez of Earth. The rules are as follows. Hand-to-hand combat only. No weapons. No killing strikes. The duel ends when one combatant yields or is rendered unable to continue. I will intervene only to prevent death. Do both parties understand and accept these terms?" "I accept," Torvax said. "I accept," Elena said. "Then begin." Torvax moved first. He was fast, faster than anything that size should be. He crossed the distance between them in 2 bounds and swung a clawed hand at Elena's head. She ducked. The claws passed through empty air where her face had been a moment before. She rolled to the side and came up in a defensive stance. Torvax did not pause. He pressed the attack, raining down blows with both arms. Elena blocked what she could and dodged what she could not. But she was fighting defensive, giving ground with every exchange. His claws found her arm. 3 lines of red opened across her skin. Blood flowed, bright and shocking against her brown skin. A gasp went through the crowd. Many species did not have red blood. To them, it looked almost alien, almost wrong. Elena did not pause to examine the wound. She kept moving, kept dodging, kept surviving. 1 minute passed. Then 2. Torvax landed a kick to her side. She felt something crack. The pain was enormous, but she had felt pain before. She had trained through pain. She knew how to push it down, to put it in a box in her mind and deal with it later. She kept moving. 3 minutes. 4. Torvax was breathing harder now. Valanthi were explosive fighters, built for short, violent encounters. Their homeworld's prey did not run for long. A hunt that lasted more than a few minutes was considered unusual. 5 minutes. 6. Elena was bleeding from multiple wounds. Her ribs screamed with every breath. Her arm was slick with blood, but she was still standing, still moving, still fighting. Torvax's attacks became slower, less precise. His fur was matted with sweat. His tongue hung from his mouth as he panted. "Why will you not fall?" he snarled. "Why will you not break?" Elena did not waste breath on answers. She just kept moving. The crowd had gone quiet. They had come expecting a quick victory. They were watching something else entirely, something they did not understand. 7 minutes. 8. Instructor Velthak watched with growing amazement. He had seen many duels in his career. He had never seen anything like this. The human girl was taking damage that would have dropped most species, and she was still fighting. He thought about the file he had read. Persistence predators, pain tolerance, psychological resilience. He was watching millions of years of human evolution in action. 9 minutes. 10. Torvax was struggling now. His movements were sloppy. His breathing was ragged. He had expected this to be over in seconds. He had not prepared for a war of attrition. He roared in frustration and launched himself at Elena with everything he had left. His claws caught her across the chest, tearing through uniform and skin. His fist connected with her face, splitting her lip. Elena staggered. For a moment, she seemed about to fall. Then she steadied herself. Blood ran down her face. Her uniform was more red than gray now, but her eyes were clear. Her fists were still raised. "Is that all you have?" she whispered. Something snapped inside Torvax. The shame, the exhaustion, the disbelief. It all combined into blind rage. He forgot about technique. He forgot about honor. He forgot everything except the overwhelming need to destroy this impossible creature in front of him. He drew back his arm for a killing blow. Every ounce of his remaining strength went into it. This strike would shatter her ribcage. It would destroy her internal organs. It would end this nightmare once and for all. Instructor Velthak saw what was coming. He moved to intervene. He was fast, faster than almost any species in the known galaxy. But the distance was too great. The blow was too quick. He was a fraction of a second too late. The impact echoed through the silent arena. Elena's body bent around Torvax's fist. The sound of breaking bones was clear and terrible. She flew backward and hit the arena floor hard. She did not move. Velthak grabbed Torvax and threw him aside. The Valanthi hit the ground and lay there, too exhausted to rise. The instructor knelt beside Elena. Her eyes were closed. Blood pooled beneath her. For a terrible moment, he thought she was dead. Then her eyes opened. They were filled with pain. But they were also filled with something else. Something that made Velthak's scales prickle with an emotion he had not felt in many years. Fear. Elena Vasquez smiled through bloody teeth. And slowly, impossibly, she began to stand up. The arena was silent. Not quiet. Silent. The kind of silence that comes when hundreds of beings forget to breathe at the same time. Elena Vasquez stood on broken legs. Her ribs were shattered. Blood ran from her mouth with every breath. By any reasonable measure, she should have been unconscious. She should have been dying. She should not have been standing. But humans, as the galaxy was about to learn, were not reasonable. Torvax stared at her from where he lay on the ground. His eyes were wide with something he had never felt before, something his warrior culture had no name for, because Valanthi did not experience it. "Terror, what are you?" he whispered. Elena did not answer with words. She answered by walking toward him. Each step was agony. She could feel the bones grinding in her chest. She could feel blood filling spaces where blood should not be. Her vision was going dark at the edges. Her body was screaming at her to stop, to fall, to give up. She did not listen. Somewhere deep in her genes, 1,000,000 years of ancestors were watching. Ancestors who had chased mammoths across frozen plains until the great beasts collapsed from exhaustion. Ancestors who had survived ice ages and plagues and famines. Ancestors who had looked death in the face and said, "Not today." Their strength flowed through her. Torvax tried to stand. His legs would not obey. His explosive strength was gone. His muscles had nothing left to give. He was built for short fights. Elena was built for survival. She reached him. She looked down at him. Blood dripped from her chin onto his silver fur. In that moment, she was not a small human girl. She was something ancient, something terrible, something that had crawled out of the mud of Earth and clawed its way to the stars through sheer stubborn refusal to die. And then she changed. She stopped fighting defensive. Every lesson her grandmother had taught her came flooding back. Her grandmother had been a soldier once. She had fought in human wars, where there were no rules and no honor. Only survival. She had taught Elena things that the academy never would. Strike the joints. Attack the soft places. Fight dirty. Fight mean. Fight to win. Elena's fist connected with Torvax's throat. He gagged and choked. Her knee found the nerve cluster on his inner thigh. His leg went numb. Her elbow cracked against the thin scales behind his ear. She was not stronger than him. She was not faster. But she was still moving, and he was not. The crowd watched in stunned silence as the small human drove the massive Valanthi warrior backward across the arena floor. Every time he tried to recover, she hit him again. Every time he tried to rise, she knocked him down. She was not fighting like a warrior. She was fighting like a survivor. Like a creature that had been cornered too many times and had learned that mercy was a luxury she could not afford. Torvax's allies in the crowd shifted uncomfortably. This was not supposed to happen. The human was supposed to break. The human was supposed to lose. The human was supposed to prove that her species was weak. Instead, she was proving something else entirely. 3 more minutes passed. Or maybe it was 3 hours. Time had lost meaning in the arena. There was only the sound of impact. Only the sight of the impossible. Finally, Torvax collapsed completely. He lay on the arena floor, gasping for breath. His body was covered in bruises. His silver fur was matted with his own blood and hers. He tried to push himself up. His arms shook. They gave out. Elena stood over him. She was swaying. Her face was pale beneath the blood. Her breaths came in short, wet gasps. She was running on nothing but willpower and anger. She could have finished him. She could have kept hitting until he stopped moving. Part of her wanted to. The part that remembered every insult, every shove, every cruel word. The part that wanted to prove once and for all that humans were not prey. Instead, she extended her hand. "Yield," she said. It was not a demand. It was an offer. A chance to end this with some dignity intact. Torvax stared at her hand, at her wounds, at the blood that dripped from her fingertips. He had given her those wounds. He had broken her bones. He had tried to kill her, and she was offering him mercy. "What are you?" he whispered again. This time it was not an insult. It was a genuine question. A plea for understanding. "I am human," Elena said simply. "This is what we are." For a long moment, nothing moved. Then Torvax reached up with a trembling hand. He took hers. "I yield," he said. Elena pulled him to his feet. Or tried to. Her strength finally gave out. They both collapsed to the arena floor, lying side by side in a pool of mixed blood. The silence broke. The arena exploded with noise. Cadets were shouting, screaming, trying to process what they had just witnessed. Instructors were pushing through the crowd. Medical teams were rushing onto the floor. Instructor Velthak reached Elena first. He knelt beside her, his 4 hands checking her vital signs. Her eyes were closed. Her breathing was shallow. "Get the medical pod," he ordered. "Now." Full trauma protocol. As they lifted her onto the floating stretcher, her eyes fluttered open. She looked up at Velthak. "Did I win?" she asked. "Yes, Cadet Vasquez, you won." She smiled. It was the most terrifying thing Velthak had ever seen. "Good," she whispered. "Tell my grandmother I did not quit." Then her eyes closed, and she was gone into the darkness of unconsciousness. Around the arena, beings of 100 species were talking in hushed voices. They had come expecting to see a human lose. They had expected to see proof that the newcomer species was weak and soft and did not belong among the stars. Instead, they had seen something else. Something that made them look at the 11 other human cadets with new eyes. Those humans looked back, and they smiled the same terrifying smile. Across the galaxy, in military academies and war colleges and strategic planning centers, beings were going to remember this night. They were going to pull up humanity's file and read it with new understanding. They were going to learn what the Vethra's military academy had just learned. Humans were not prey. Humans were something far, far worse. Elena woke up in the medical bay 3 days later. The first thing she saw was white ceiling tiles. The second thing she saw was Rix, sleeping in a chair beside her bed. The little Calorian had clearly been there for a while. Their 6 limbs were folded at awkward angles, and soft clicking sounds came from their throat as they dreamed. Elena tried to sit up. Pain flared through her chest, but it was manageable. Much more manageable than it should have been after having her ribs shattered. A medical drone floated over immediately. Its sensors scanned her body. "Patient is awake," it announced. Vital signs stable. Bone regeneration at 87%. Internal tissue repair at 92%. Remarkable recovery rate. Noted. Rix jolted awake at the sound. Their dark eyes went wide when they saw Elena sitting up. "You are alive!" Rick scrambled out of the chair and grabbed Elena's hand with two of their limbs. "I was so worried. The doctors said your injuries were severe. They said most species would need weeks to recover. But you are already sitting up. How is this possible?" Elena smiled weakly. "Humans heal fast. It is one of our few advantages." The medical bay door opened. Instructor Velthak walked in. He looked different somehow. The permanent frown that usually marked his face was softer. His yellow eyes held something that might have been respect. "Cadet Vasquez, I am pleased to see you recovering." "Thank you, sir." Velthak pulled up a chair and sat down. For a being his size, the chair looked comically small. "I want you to know that what you did in that arena was extraordinary. I have trained cadets for 40 years. I have seen thousands of duels. I have never seen anything like what you did." Elena was not sure how to respond. "I just did not want to lose, sir." "No." Velthak shook his head slowly. "It was more than that. I thought I would have to stop that fight early. I thought I was going to watch you die. When Torvax landed that blow, I was certain it was over." He paused. "I was wrong. I underestimated your species. I apologize for that." "There is no need to apologize, sir. Everyone underestimates us. We are used to it." Velthak leaned forward. "There is a word in my language. Kelrath. It does not translate well into common. The closest meaning is the refusal to be broken, the choice to stand when everything tells you to fall. It is the highest compliment a Kreshi can pay to a warrior." He placed one of his large hands on Elena's shoulder. "You have Kelrath, Cadet Vasquez. Never let anyone tell you otherwise." He stood and walked to the door. Before leaving, he turned back. "Rest well. You have earned it." The next visitor was less expected. Torvax stood in the doorway, looking uncertain. He had bandages on his face and one arm was in a regeneration sleeve. He looked smaller somehow, despite being twice Elena's size. Rix immediately moved to stand between them, but Elena waved her friend aside. "Let him in." Torvax walked to her bedside. He stood there for a long moment, saying nothing. His pale blue eyes were troubled. "I came to." He stopped. Started again. "Valanthe, do not apologize. It is not our way. An apology admits weakness, and weakness is death." "I am not asking for an apology," Elena said. "I know. That is what makes this difficult." Torvax took a deep breath. "I called you prey. I said your species did not belong among warriors. I was wrong. I was afraid." Elena raised an eyebrow. "Afraid? Of me? Of what you represent? Humanity is new. Different. You do not fit into the categories we understand. That scared me, so I tried to destroy you before you could destroy everything I believed about the universe." He looked down at his hands. "In the arena, you could have killed me. I tried to kill you, and you showed me mercy. I do not understand why. Because killing you would not have proved anything," Elena said. "I did not need you dead. I just needed you to know that we are not weak, that we belong here." Torvax was quiet for a long time. When he spoke again, his voice was different, smaller, more honest. "My entire life, I was taught that strength means power, the ability to crush your enemies. But you showed me something else. You showed me that strength can mean getting up when you should stay down. It can mean refusing to break. It can mean showing mercy when you have the power to destroy." He met her eyes. "I do not know if we will ever be friends. There is too much between us for that. But I will not be your enemy anymore. And if anyone else tries to say that humans do not belong here, they will have to go through me first." He turned and walked out without waiting for a response. Elena stared at the empty doorway for a long time. Rix made a soft clicking sound of amazement. "Did that really just happen?" "I think so," Elena said. "I am not entirely sure I am not dreaming." 2 weeks later, Elena returned to training. She walked into the morning assembly with the other cadets of Cohort Sigma 7. The room went quiet. Everyone was staring at her. Not with hostility. Not with dismissal. With something else entirely. Respect, fear, wonder. The 11 other humans in her cohort gathered around her. They did not say anything. They did not need to. They just stood with her, showing the galaxy that humans stuck together. The word had spread far beyond the Academy. Military strategists across the coalition had pulled up humanity's file. They had read about persistence hunting, about healing, about a species that had survived ice ages and plagues and wars against itself and kept going. They had watched recordings of the duel. They had seen a small human girl take damage that would have killed most species and keep fighting. They had seen her stand when she should have fallen. They had seen her win when she should have lost. And they had begun to ask themselves a question that would reshape galactic military strategy for generations. What happens when we fight a species that does not stop? The answer was terrifying. 1 year later, Instructor Velthak stood before a new cohort of cadets. Fresh faces from a dozen worlds. Eager, nervous, certain that they knew how the universe worked. Among them were 2 human cadets, a young man and a young woman, standing straight and proud despite being smaller than almost everyone around them. A Valanthi cadet in the front row made a noise of disgust. Humans? They put us in a cohort with humans? Everyone knows they are the weakest species in the coalition. Velthak's yellow eyes fixed on the young Valanthi. The room went very quiet. I will tell you what I have learned about humans, he said slowly. His voice was calm, but it carried the weight of experience. They are not the fastest. They are not the strongest. They do not have claws or fangs or armor. He walked toward the Valanthi, each step deliberate, but I have seen a human take a blow that would have killed a Krashi and keep fighting. I have seen a human win a duel against a Valanthi warrior through nothing but pure, stubborn refusal to die. I have seen what humans are made of, and I tell you now, if you ever find yourself in a fight against a human, pray it is over quickly. He leaned down until his face was inches from the young Valanthis. Because if it becomes a battle of endurance, if it becomes a test of will, if it becomes a question of who will break first, you will lose. They will not stop. They will never stop. Not until one of you is dead. And I promise you, it will not be them. He straightened up and walked back to the front of the room. Now, let us begin. In the back of the room, the 2 human cadets exchanged a glance. They smiled the same terrifying smile that Elena Vasquez had smiled 1 year ago. The galaxy had learned what humans were, and they would never forget.